thank you so much, everyone, for being here on this fourth Sunday of the month where we have the Dr. King Dream series, focusing as an extension of our MLK program back in January, really focusing on the dream that Dr. King had of a just country, of a just society, and its manifestations in various components such as healthcare and education, and certainly the environment, which is what we're focusing on today. And I apologize again for the delay. We were waiting on some people, and not just Alicia, but we're still waiting on another person. But forgive us for that, but we're delighted that all of you are here today. Just something really quick, when we had this topic, I was doing some research on Dr. King and his stance in the environment, and it was one thing that I want to read this to you, which I thought was really for me, I found it to be really interesting, because oftentimes we think of Dr. King as being someone obviously who's in the realm of social justice and civil rights, and then making that connection to the environment sometimes it's like, well, how does that happen? And it was interesting, most all the papers that I read, and I read quite a few in preparation for this, it said that Dr. King recognized that environmental justice was a component of achieving social justice, including healthier living environments for underprivileged communities and universal access to clean air, to water and soil. Dr. King said that segregation is harmful to everyone involved. And what's fascinating is that now, pollution studies prove everything that he said to be correct and to be right? So it was embedded within his own theology of how environmental justice is an extension of really civil justice for all of us as humanity. And so with that, there's one more thing I want to say, which I didn't know, and I'm sure our speaker, Alicia, will expand on this. But in fact, environmentalists credit the civil rights movement with the passage of the Clean Air Act of 1970 and Clean Water Act in 1972, bills which enabled the United States government to better regulate pollutants in the air and water. And I did not know that. So it was fascinating when I was reading all this. So this is what we will focus on today. And we're really delighted to have Alicia Rivera with us. And I'm going to actually pass this on to my SCIC president, Susan Brooks, who will introduce Alicia to everyone. Susan?
Good afternoon, everybody. And once again, thanks so much for your patience. As a resident of North Torrance, with the Torrance refinery just on the other side of the freeway, this is something that is really near and dear to my heart. But I have the honor of introducing Alicia. She is a community organizer for Communities for a Better Environment, focusing her work in Wilmington, California, helping the residents there to make local refineries safer, cleaner, and accountable for their emissions. She's currently working in a campaign to get the city of Los Angeles to pass an ordinance to protect neighbors from the impacts of nearby oil drilling operations by adopting health and safety setbacks of 2,500 feet between homes and vulnerable sectors and the drilling sites, so schools, homes, that sort of thing. She first started organizing on oil-related issues in Wilmington in an accountability campaign against the former Texaco refinery, which is now Endeavor, after it exploded, causing environmental harm to many Wilmington residents. And I'm going to share a quote of Alicia's that was shared with me, which is, to help people evolve from being passive and inactive into concerned individuals who feel the responsibility to participate in the fight for environmental justice rewards my spirit, and it helps me to continue the long and hard struggle to fight for our planet. And with that, I will hand it over to Alicia.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with everyone this afternoon. You won't believe, but I thought it was a little later, the presentation. So when I found out, just happened to come and see if I have the Zoom, I realized that it wasn't at 5. So made it just on time. Saved by the bell today. Well, I am glad to see some familiar faces like Sherry and Steve. So some of these folks are just as good as me to talk about this topic. I would like to share the screen. So let me see if that's open for me. Yes, it is. And So let me start by, okay, let's see. Okay, let's try again. Let's see if I can see. Okay. Share screen. Okay, so does everybody see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so I am going to start. I have a PowerPoint presentation, and let me go. I will go slow for you all, and feel free to. Well, we hope to get questions at the end. So here is CBE. We are these are our youth and adult members. We have offices in Los Angeles and in Richmond and in Oakland. So these are most of the folks here in the area. I will mostly focus my presentation in the South Bay area of our work, mostly in Wilmington. And so I will start. I have a small a video. Let me see if I can get it to play. Okay, so this is a city. Here. So I am going to expand it. And there it is. And it's a small introduction to environmental justice. Short. Okay, so this is a city. Here are all the people living in it. People of all different colors, ages, wealths, and incomes. Except they don't all live together in the same place. They're separated into different parts of the city by what color they are, what language they speak, and how much money they have. And those different parts of the city look quite different. The parts that are whiter and wealthier tend to have green spaces, grocery stores with nutritious organic food, and of course the money to buy it, and are often far away from pollution-emitting freeways. The parts that are poorer and more diverse tend to have industrial sites, heavy-duty diesel-polluted ports and highways, and hazardous waste, all things that the city relies on to run properly, but that heavily pollute the air and water. And even if they had those grocery stores with nutritious organic food, most residents there couldn't afford it anyway. How did this happen? Well, this segregation can be traced back to race-based zoning and housing policies, but it wasn't always as deliberate as plain old racism. Some separations can simply be traced to poor land use planning. And as a result, these residents of the same city live very different lives. Say the city realizes it has an emissions problem. It comes up with a plan to reduce air pollution, plant more trees to suck up the carbon, or start a cap-and-trade program. But those trees get planted in the neighborhoods that are already green, and the factories that are spewing toxins into the air just buy more carbon offsets and keep spewing their toxins. The benefits of these programs are enjoyed by the communities that are already doing just fine, and the communities that were hurting most from all that air pollution, well, they're still hurting. This isn't just an imaginary city. This is the story of real cities all across the US where people might live in the very same area code, but their race, ethnicity, or wealth and income bracket causes them to experience wildly different quality of air, water, and life. In fact, it can even mean that they also experience different deaths. That's how serious this stuff is. This kind of inequity expands far beyond cities, too. Rural areas are full of commercially valuable resources like oil and coal, and they're also home to indigenous and low-income communities. But when those resources are extracted, those communities don't see any of the money, and they end up with all the air and water contamination that's left over from the extraction. And we even see this injustice on a global level, like in small island nations that are forced to directly confront the consequences of rising sea levels, but haven't played any significant role in the industries that are causing climate change. These peoples are sometimes forced to flee their homes because their land is literally going underwater. But the very states that did play a hand in creating climate change don't have migration policies to accommodate them.
So when we talk about environmental justice, we're talking about how we can try to break down and reimagine a system that's built up on these inequities. A system where those who are already disadvantaged because of their race and economic status are made poorer because they're unable to profit from the resources that the world depends on and are made sick or worse by the environmental contamination that comes with extracting those resources. Social inequities are intimately tied to the environment. That's why social justice is an environmental issue too.
Okay. Okay, let's see. So that was an introduction about what environmental justice is. Well, wait a minute, give me 1 second. Let me get back here. That's not exactly what I wanted to show you next. But I'm trying to get out of here and I can't find the controls. Okay. Well, bear with me for just a second. I can't seem to find the controls. Okay, let me escape. Okay, there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna stop share and see if I can get back to the original presentation that I had. I guess I probably have several here. Share. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop share. And apparently I have more than one presentation here. I think this is the one I need. Right, I have more than one on the screen. So here is another screen. Open link. Can people see my presentation?
Okay, so this is a city.
Well, this is the same one. Hold on. What is happening here? Is this the one yeah, this is the one I want now.
Environmental justice really.
Can people see my screen?
No. Are you sharing?
Okay, give me 1 second. Share screen. Okay. 1 second. Okay, can you see it now?
Reflects the.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your understanding here.
Environmental justice really reflects the fundamental reality that vulnerable communities are all too often subject to the disproportionate burden of pollution and contamination. At the end of the day, when we're talking about environmental impacts, at the heart of it are real people's lives. And if you think about one child who's in her home that maybe has lead paint on the walls, she's drinking water from the tap that might have lead contamination in it. She
plays in a playground that has arsenic in the soil and is developing asthma because of the polluting facilities next door. She goes into her school that has mold inside. These are real things that happen on an everyday basis. Not everybody has the ability to simply uproot themselves and it's from a community where they've lived for decades, where their families raise them, where they raise their children. People don't have the financial mobility necessarily to simply get up and go. How do we combat environmental injustice? There are things like litigation. That means continue fighting in the courts, continue fighting to strengthen existing legislation, fighting to ensure that existing legislation is actually being enforced. Things like community organizing, public education, mobilizing the base, and elevating voices. And there's also things like using media as an outlet to get your point across. In today's day and age, especially with this administration, I think there are an enormous amount of hurdles in how to address environmental injustices. But the reality is we have to keep fighting. Great gains do not occur overnight. They take sometimes decades. I truly believe that environmental justice is the modern day civil rights issue of our time.
Okay, well, now that we have that, can you still see my screen? Okay,
Yes.
so I am with Communities for a Better Environment. We are 40 plus years old, and we have offices in Wilmington, which I will focus my presentation on today. We also have offices in Southeast Los Angeles, Huntington Park, Vernon, and all those adjacent areas where there is mostly industrial pollution. And we have offices in the Bay Area, in Richmond, and in Oakland. And the type of methods that we utilize at CBE is threefold. We train our members in the different communities that are overburdened by pollution. Through organizing. And we have attorneys and researchers that also contribute with their legal and scientific information that goes down to the communities. We put it in lay terms so that people understand the legislation and what is going on that is at play so that they can also become involved. Our communities endure environmental racism. Here is a little bit about what Richmond and West East Oakland experience. Richmond, similar to us here in the South Bay, with a lot of pollution from refineries. The Columbine, which is a tool used to map what different areas are exposed to, show that the most polluted communities are communities of color. A study after studies has found that major racial disparities in environmental risk, not just income disparities. Permits for polluted expansions perpetuate this. This is Southeast Los Angeles. It's mostly major mobile and stationary sources. I don't know how many people have heard about the Exide battery recycling plant. That's one of the major stationary polluters, where all the cars batteries that we return every time we buy a new one, they keep the old one, and most of them here in Los Angeles, we're going to Southeast LA, where now we are embarked in a one of the major cleanups, the biggest cleanups in California, led by that Exide company that has polluted with lead a great deal of the homes near it. So this is Wilmington. It's in the southern tip of the city of Los Angeles. I don't know how many people from the area and the people that are here in this meeting have ever had a chance to go through Wilmington, off of the 110, the Harbor 110. And normally you just pass through Wilmington out of the Pacific Coast Highway or Anaheim to go to Long Beach. So it has the largest oil refinery complex in the West Coast, oil drilling and extreme diesel traffic from the Port of Los Angeles. So Wilmington is a community that is only about 20 square miles. About 90% of the population is Latino, immigrant, and low income and poor. So everything, this port is one of the largest one, together with the Port of Long Beach, is the second largest in the nation. So everything that the goods that are distributed from everything that comes in the ships traverse through Wilmington. And of course, Lee is a major massive pollution source with diesel trucking and ship emission. Wilmington is very important. It's Wilmington, together with the Carson area, which used to be one area, has about a third of the entire state refining capacity, all surrounded by homes, especially in Wilmington. Imagine having one refinery for those that live in Torrance. That is a big deal, but in Wilmington, we have 5, all these ones here, in that small area. And of course, this one here is the Hawaiian Elementary School. And where are these black smoke coming from? It's coming from the Phillips 66 refinery that is just off of the 110 freeway. I don't know if people have pay attention to it. It's off of Anaheim, close to the 4-way stops of PV Drive North, Gaffey, Vermont, and Anaheim. This is what the children see often while they're at school. And talking about environmental racism, I wonder how many of your children that you know of experience this while they're at school. From the 5 refineries, you know, here is the Chevron El Segundo, here is the now PBF in Torrance. And of course, all congregated together are the 5 refineries that we have in Wilmington, together with Carson. 3 are in Wilmington, the Phillips 66 off of Anaheim by Harbor College. Then is the one Tesoro, now is called different because it's sold out, it's Endeavor. And the Valero one that you probably have seen on the way, if you go down Anaheim to Long Beach. But the whole together is one refinery, one huge refinery complex. And so I wonder how many people have ever taken the 110 freeway entrance into San Pedro from Anaheim. And so the freeway you enter, and on the left is the entrance to the freeway, and to the right is all these homes, about 60 of them. And we cannot see the fence here, the cinder block fence that divides Phillips 66 from the homes. Talking about environmental racism, how did these homes happen to be on the other side of the refinery, just divided by a cinder block fence? And all these smokestacks, the tall ones, used to have a flare constantly in the past, before 2005. And one of the things that we achieved at CBE, working around refineries, is we were able to get the South Coast Air Quality Management District to replicate a legislation, a program that was replicated at the Bay Area first, Air Quality Management District. It's a regulation that requires refineries to reduce the use of flaring to the minimum. Why? Because they can do it. They just needed to buy vapor capturing rather than burning the excess gases through the flare, which was the cheapest way. And they did that for many years. And one single flare event, the ones that the children are experiencing right here with the black smoke, if it's 3 to 5 hours, could emit as much pollution into the air as regular refinery flaring for the whole year. So it's very important that we were able to pass that regulation in 2005. That's why the flares are only seen occasionally, every time the refinery has some sort of incident going on. So here is a view of just a fraction of the massive refinery complex that in reality just continues from one refinery to the next one, from Wilmington all to Carson on the other side of Lomita Boulevard. And of course, all these, what is the refinery really made up of? There is made up of a lot, all these units, all these units and pipelines and smokestacks and tanks and everything. They are, some of them are boilers, others are coal heaters, are cracking units, there's storage tanks, there are flares, thousands of valves. And these ones are the ones that are operating continuously, even if we don't see any flare or emissions coming out. They're the ones that suck up all the energy at the refinery. And so at the moment, we are involved in pushing the South Coast Air Quality Management District to amend the boilers and heaters rule so that they can put best available control technology to capture all the emissions through methods that are already available. So when we can see what's going on is only when we see flares, of course, black smoke. This is pictures that we have put together here just to show. And also this one here is in 2014. Imagine you come home and from work and your street is cordoned off. You can't get into your house because all these workers are working on your street. What are they doing in this instance in Wilmington? One of the pipelines from Phillips 66 that had been decommissioned for over 20 years, and there was a small tumbler of the air, and made, these pipes underground are never cleaned up, so they still have oil in them. And with the tumbler, the oil started oozing out. And so they have to break the whole street. At the beginning, they had to figure out, the authorities had to figure out who owned that pipeline. And they found out it was Phillips, and Phillips was denying that it was theirs. Eventually, they had to take responsibility, and it was cleaned up. But this is the case for the area especially in Wilmington and Carson, where there is a freeway of pipelines underground. Some of them are abandoned, has never been cleaned up. So this is a compilation of different examples of the same Tesoro refinery, now Endeavor, in different years. This is the more recent one in 2016, where a sulfur tank exploded. And when we call AQMD, they still haven't told us how did that accident happen. They don't know why the sulfur tank exploded. And so this is what happened. Anytime one of the 5 refineries is going to explode. This one is a recent one of last year. The same refinery had a huge fire that blocked the 405 freeway, and it was in the news. In fact, this is from KTLA. And this refinery, talking about environmental justice and racism, despite all these accidents, they were allowed to expand, put together 2 refineries into one by AQMD. So Sherry Lear knows and was involved that we really organized to try to stop that expansion, and we failed. So for Earth Day or People's Climate Day, Day, where there are demonstrations nationwide and globally, we were able to bring that demonstration that normally happens in downtown LA to Wilmington. So this is us marching towards Tesoro, former Tesoro. Over 3,000 people came to Wilmington from all over, and we marched to the gates of the refinery to protest that expansion, but it didn't work. A month later, the AQMD approved the expansion, the merger of Tesoro with the BP refinery in Carson. So now Tesoro is the largest one on the West Coast. This is how we have massive projects in Wilmington that are humongous. This is very well known to Steve Goldsmith here. And thank you. I think this is one of your slides that I copied. The refinery, the Valero refinery that we go by when we go down Anaheim to Long Beach is of special danger, because it not only has all this pollution, and, you know, from flaring and accidents and explosions, but it uses something called modified hydrofluoric acid, which is the world's most dangerous, one of the world's most dangerous chemicals. Why? Because upon release, it forms a low cloud. You can see it's a low cloud. This is a test that is lethal at breathing height for miles. And it's so corrosive that it can corrode bones. And the LA County found that millions are at risk of death or serious injury all the way to like 17 miles. We were able to, we were trying to get this ban after the PBF refinery, former ExxonMobil, had a very dangerous explosion where a big piece of debris fell very close to the MHF tank. And it was near a near miss disaster. And so after that, we tried to get the AQMD to ban this gas, because all of the other refineries in California already use a different type of gas that is less, it doesn't has the risk of engulfing people. But the refineries were able to convince AQMD to leave them alone and continue using it. That's the type of people that we have at the AQMD board that are very industry. And so here is a, you know, a close-up of what the exposure would be if you live near any of the Valero or the Torrance refinery. Exposure to the MHF plume during major release can cause serious irreversible health effects 16 to 17 miles downwind from the refinery, either from the Torrance or the Valero. And the people that are the closest, 8 to 8 miles, and death can occur. Based on the EPA risk management program, this is the map here. These risks are ongoing, but in other cases, we have won major improvements on refinery emission. And I know that Steve will bring probably at the end the effort right now to try to get the EPA to listen to this situation with MHF. Throughout the years, we have won many regulations requiring refineries that are requiring best available control technology, as I said, for the flare minimization with vapor recovery and accident prevention. We have also been able to get pressure relief device to put vapor capture on the on all those refineries units. For the storage tank, which are very visible when we drive by these refineries, we see many tanks, storage tanks. So we are at the moment also getting AQM, trying to push AQMD to require leak standards and vapor recovery for all the storage tanks, because all those vapors go out into the air. And a lot of VOCs and benzene pollution comes out of that. Also from the valves and flanges, and even from the marine loading, we have been able to get vapor recovery system so that while they are on dock, that they are not spewing very bad emissions from the fuel they use. So aside from the oil refining, since Wilmington is such a large oil field, one of the biggest one in California, you know, we also have oil extraction right next to the homes. This is a picture, and I know all these people here. And literally, this thing is going up and down right in the roof. And people tell me that they can hear the whizzing of this equipment in their head, even when they're sleeping and even when they are away from Wilmington. This is the quality of life that people, you know, when you're inside this home and you're cooking, or you're studying if you're a student, or you're going to bed, you know, no matter what you're doing at home, you're hearing these activities going on. And so, of course, we say that we don't want any oil drilling where people live, where people play. This is the Boys and Girls. This is across from the Boys and Girls Club, off of Figueroa and Q Street. This is a field where the high school students, the girls, come and play every day after school and practice. But look at this. It's all surrounded by oil drilling. Right next to the Boys and Girls, which is across from where these people are. And on the other side, and you can see all these ones when you get into the 110 freeway going north, or you're coming south. So, you know, and there are many chemicals that people, and especially these girls, because they're playing, they're inhaling faster into their lungs. hydrogen sulfide is what mostly one of the major and popular gases that are coming out of oil and gas extraction. This is very, even at low concentrations, is very bad for your health. These are some of the statements from people that live very close to one of the major oil extraction companies in Wilmington. Evening noise, smells, constant coughing, less sleep. I know my blood pressure is just on edge. I just have to leave. Headache, nausea, and difficulty breathing. Every morning, lots of black films all over the cars and on your driveway and on your windows. I get a weird taste in my mouth, somebody say. The house is full of dust. Must close the windows in the house, especially when it's very hot. So how did this facility get expanded into Wilmington? This one of the environmental racism and environmental justice that we are talking about, because where this facility sits now, it also, this facility came in 2005 to take over what was in there that only had 19 wells. And that facility had been operating there since the 1970s. And so when this facility called Warren EMP came and asked for a permit from the city of Los Angeles and from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, it was Janice Hahn who was the councilwoman representing Wilmington before she became a senator or congresswoman. So they approved the permit by simply grandfathering the permit from the facility that was there from many years before. And they approved the permit with no conditions. So the facility can operate 24/7. And that facility was allowed to put 540 new wells. Imagine, there are apartment buildings across the street. There is a Little League baseball field sharing the lot with the facility that comes after school every day. And what are they breathing? So this is talking about environmental justice and racism in permitting and seating. So we found out that the city of Los Angeles was violating the civil rights by not applying any conditions to these permits. However, they were doing it in other cities, such as in Beverly Hills. They were asking for conditions such as hours of operation, levels of noise, or levels of dust, but not in Wilmington. So we sued the city, and the city decided to negotiate, and we won necessary environmental review of drilling that was missing in the city of Los Angeles. We did that on behalf of our youth, but the shameless oil industry sued our youth in response and wanted us to pay them attorney's fees and all that. They sued us in something called SLAPP suit, which is something to intimidate people into suing the oil companies, because that way, you know, a lot of people cannot afford hiring an attorney to defend them. And that's why it's so important for organizations such as CBE to exist with enough funding, because these facilities and the oil companies, they would sue you. If you sue them, they will counter sue you in something called SLAPP suit. And they can break you financially. If you don't have, because if you win on the first entrance with the judge, they will appeal. And so that takes more attorney's time, more money. And if you don't have the economic way to continue fighting them, they're gonna break you. And then they want you to pay them attorney's fees. So recently we just a couple of weeks ago, we finally prevailed in their appeal. So now they have to pay us. And hopefully that'll be the end of it. This is the Banning Mansion. A lot of the street in Wilmington are called Banning, and the Banning High School is called Banning. That's because the guy who started the port in Wilmington, his name was Banning, his last name was Banning, and so it's a beautiful mansion there. So there's a lot of things that are beautiful around Wilmington, and of course we have our office there, where people are able to come and organize and get together. We're trying to, we know what the problem is, all of us here. If we don't stop greenhouse gases from oil industry and fossil fuel, this is what is happening right now globally. And so we have been fighting the oil companies, for years. But these companies will pollute until the very last minute of civilization. So we are now embarked in trying to face oil drilling. The 2,500-foot setback campaign that we started has really taken a big leap. And now we have been able to get the city of Los Angeles to pass, on the way to ban and shut down all these oil drilling operations. We are on the way to do that. We've been fighting to get enough funding, and we are waiting for the ordinance to be written. So we are at that phase right now. Phase out fossil fuels, the technology already exists. UC Berkeley and other studies prove we can phase out fossil fuel economically through energy efficiency to cut energy needs, replacing natural gas, electricity, and heating with zero emission renewables, through electrify the transportation, no more gas, diesel, crude oil, drilling, fracking. And of course, we have been very involved to try to get equitable clean energy access, especially in refinery towns such as Wilmington, where people should also be able to have solar, even if they are rented through programs called distributed solar. They should also be able to get, have enough funding to get economic vehicles. And we need charging stations, not only in Torrance, but closely in Wilmington. And we are involved with community resiliency through community gardenings, food security, equitable community-based solutions. And again, since 2012, we know that it is feasible and economic to switch to energy efficiency, replace natural gas with clean renewables, electrify transportation. And so all these programs, through energy efficient, we're working with the Department of Water and Power, which is our public energy provider. And they have programs that are assisting people with energy efficiency if they sign up. We're also pushing for to replace natural gas with clean renewables and all that. So transportation, the car is far behind the progress made in electricity, the car. Most greenhouse gases and smoke come from the fuel chain, from the extraction, refining, and the transportation, the burning of the fossil fuels. We're making progress to the Charge Ahead, which is the electric vehicles program. We're working with the Air Quality Management District and the Port of LA to get zero emission vehicles, especially some of the trucks. that are delivering the goods that come to the port. Also, battery for electric vehicles, unfortunately only make up a couple % of California's vehicles so far. However, the grids include 33% clean renewable energy. Electricity is really making progress on the way to 100% clean. So we have a long way to go to get the 90 to 100% zero vehicle emissions. And the oil industry is fighting the decarbonization tooth and nail. In fact, they are fighting us at every step of the way with the Air Quality Management District. The makeup of the Air Quality Management District is a real problem. And we've been trying to pass a bill to add 2 more representatives before the AQMD board that represent the interests of the environmental justice community, because the majority in the board right now, I really should, might as well be representatives, speakers, spokespeople for the refineries, because they're always approving everything the refineries want. So after this, what can you do? Of course, we need to switch to electric vehicles. All those that are able to do it, especially now that we know that in California, eventually there will be no more gas vehicles. They all have to be electric. We need to help solar access in low-income communities so that, a lot of people would like to put solar panels that are now free from the LADWP, but the roof is an issue, and they cannot afford to fix the roof so that it can bear the weight of the panels. Solar panels, solar for all includes both low-income homeowners and share solar in low-income housing, because most people are renters. We need good land policies, which is the issue that allowed for this major oil extraction that I was talking about to simply grandfather an old permit. We need community input on redeveloping brownfields. We had a program to try to get the brownfields that are around, and it was very difficult to find who owned those lots. So anyway, there's a lot of things that people can do. Here is other things that we are involved in. We are involved with the Public Utility Commission at the state level and the LADWP locally in terms of electricity planning and legislation for solar, energy storage, and other zero emission grid and equitable energy access. We have also, we also are very involved with fair housing access. We have a program for climate resiliency and adaptation. And in fact, we have been able to get to make the Banning Senior Citizen Center into a cooling center that is powered by solar panels. Of course, we support the Black Lives Matters and racial justice. And during the pandemic, we also had an emergency COVID fund for elders and low income. We were able to help a little bit that way. And we are also being involved to trying to get green spaces and garden. And of course, we are there. We have a program with civic engagement, which is where we are involved with legislation at the local and state level and getting people to turn out to vote. That's our action program. And so after this pretty much conclude my presentation, and I wonder what kind of ideas and comments you might have after all this. But also I see here is some of our takes from different actions. And I wanted to play this song, which is in Spanish. And I was a little late because I was trying to get the lyrics in English, but I wasn't able to get them quickly. So bear with what you hear and what you see. Give me 1 second. And pretty much talk about that the earth it has a fever now and it needs help.
La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito.
Well, it says the earth has fever and it needs medicine and a little bit of love to take away the big pain that is in.
Un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. La tierra tiene fiebre, tiembla, llora, se duele del dolor más doloroso. Y es que piensa que ya no la quiere.
Well, it says that the earth is crying because it doesn't feel any love.
La tierra tiene fiebre, tiembla, llora, se duele del dolor más doloroso.
And it's crying in pain. The biggest pain that is feeling, and it doesn't feel any love.
Que piensa que ya no la quiere. Y es que no hay respeto.
There is no respect for clean air, for the birds, for the air, for the children.
Es que no hay respeto por los que están sin tierra. Y es que no hay respeto. Y cerramos la frontera. Y es que no hay respeto por los niños chiquitinos. Y es que no hay respeto por las madres que buscan a sus hijos.
It repeats.
La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene.
Okay, let's see. Can anyone sing this and go through the words? What you hear? La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito. Okay, here. La tierra tiene fiebre y necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. Who can repeat? La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. Anyone?
I'll try it. It's Jane. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, la tierra tiene fiebre y necesita medicina y poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene.
Anyone else? So Eric has fever and he needs medicine and a little bit of love that it cures it from the big pain that he's suffering. Okay, maybe somebody goes to the next one.
La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene.
Okay, there it repeats again. Anyone else? How about Sherry? Are you still there?
Hablo poquito español.
Okay, go for it.
Oh my goodness. La tierra tiene fiebre y necesita medicina y poquito de amor que la cure la penita que tiene.
Woo! Okay, next one would do the next line.
La tierra tiene fiebre, tiembla, llora, se duele del dolor más doloroso. Y es que piensa que ya no la quiere. La tierra...
Okay, this is what it just said. Earth has fever, it it trembles, it cries, it hurts, the pain, the sharpest pain. La tierra tiene fiebre, tiembla, it trembles, llora, it cries, se duele del dolor más doloroso, is crying with the sharpest pain. Yes, down here it says, y es que piensa que ya no la quieren. And she thinks that she's no longer loved. Okay, so anyone else want to repeat this? How about Steve?
No, can't sing and can't, sorry for the beeping, can't sing and can't speak Spanish.
But can
I'm
you
still
read
working
it?
on English.
La tierra tiene fiebre, tiembla, llora, se duele del dolor más doloroso, y es que piensa que ya no la quieren. Okay, last chance. Okay, here you go.
Tiene fiebre, tiembla, llora, se duele del dolor más doloroso, y es que piensa que
Ya no la quieren. Y es que no hay respeto.
y se mueren de hambre,
Y es que no hay respeto y se ahoga el aire.
y es que no hay respeto, y hoy llora más madre, y es que no hay respeto, y se mueren de pena los mares, y es que no hay respeto por la voz de los pueblos, y es que no hay respeto.
There is no respect for any of this. Now it's gonna go fast. Now it's gonna go very fast. La tierra tiene sed, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene.
La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. La tierra
Tiene fiebre.
La tierra tiene fiebre.
La tierra tiene fiebre.
La tierra tiene fiebre. La tierra tiene fiebre, necesita medicina y un poquito de amor que le cure la penita que tiene. Es que no hay respeto por el aire limpio, es que no hay respeto por los pajaritos, es que no hay respeto por la tierra de mis amigos, es que no hay respeto ni por los hermanos, y es que no hay respeto por la bondad de los pueblos.
It says, y es que no hay respeto por el aire limpio. There is no respect for clean air. No hay respeto. There is no respect for the birds. There is no respect for the earth that we live on. There is no respect for others, for our brothers and sisters. There is no respect for other people. There is no respect by the government. And there is no respect for the children of the world. And there is no respect for the world. Some people think they are God. Okay, well, I hope you like the song.
Alicia, thank you so much for that, your presentation and the song and your singing as well. I know that I just wanted to be cognizant of our time, and I know we have about a little over half an hour left, and I want to give Steve, you've had your hand up for some time now, so if you'd like to add anything, please. I think you're driving, so I just want to make sure that first and foremost, you're safe while you're driving, but we would love to hear from you.
No, I've pulled over and parked under a tree.
Oh,
and,
good.
And I put my hand up because I thought we were near the end, and I had to move my car, but now I'm settled again.
Okay.
And I wanted to say first, we've just seen a demonstration by a really top-notch community organizer, Alicia, and wanted to emphasize one little point that 2 points. One is how important it is to support organizations like CBE, and CBE in particular, because of the longevity. They're in it for the long haul. They've accumulated all this experience. They've got lawyers. They've got all kinds of staff that really know the AQMD staff and the board inside and out and all the rules and regulations. And for the people who want to breathe and live easily, it's absolutely critical, and particularly the horrible day-to-day effects of this drilling And I think it's so terrific that the campaign to stop this near residents, which would stop it everywhere, I think, there are big oil fields, but near people's houses, that's got to go. And just finally on the HF issue, which is not a daily issue, not a daily concern. It's an acute concern. If there is a mass release, the consequences would be beyond belief. And there can be a release either from an accident that almost happened in 2015 to a natural disaster. The two of the refineries, and particularly the Wilmington one, sit on an earthquake fault, or an intentional act, either cyber or just a disgruntled worker with a shotgun. I mean, it's just way too dangerous to have in such large quantities in a place that is so dangerous. And what has become clearer and clearer, and it's been true for a long time. And actually, there's a thing where the refinery on paper says there's no alternatives, and that is a false statement. There are large multinational corporations actively marketing alternatives. DuPont, Chevron, Honeywell, one called KBR. There's a whole bunch, and all of this information is available on the website and it's a very simple one, TRAA.website. And the main thing we're pushing this next week is because, as Alicia pointed out, very hard to beat these refineries at the local or state level. So there's an EPA rulemaking process going on. I'm not going to go into all the details, but it's an opportunity. If you go to our website, all of it is explained very clearly. And it's an opportunity to make a comment in this next week and what we're trying to do is influence the EPA to prioritize changing a rule that will force refineries to change to a vastly safer alternative than HF. There are 40 such refineries in the United States. I just finished viewing almost 19 million people are in the those circles that Alicia showed before. And so you may be aware of the issue, but even if you're just learning about it for the first time, that's a perspective also to give the EPA how all these people don't know what this is. And of course, it's trucked in from Louisiana, so it goes through hundreds of towns that have no idea and are completely unprepared for a truck accident, as well as there was last month in China, and almost killed a bunch of people, and may have. We just don't know. So I'll leave you the 2 points. One is make a donation to CBE in honor of Alicia today, and go online to the website, find out how to make a quick, easy comment to the EPA, and have a good week and keep breathing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Alicia, I'm sorry, was there something else that you wanted to say?
I know it was a large presentation, but basically, it shows what the video at the beginning about what is environmental racism. I see some of the comments here that people tend to live near polluting sites. Yeah. In fact, a reporter once asked me, I wonder why would anybody live here, when I took him to the neighborhood by Phillips 66 that I showed you. And I told him, well, let's go ask. And we knock on somebody's door at the closest to the refinery, the last house, the closest to the refinery. And she said, when I was looking for a place to live with 3 children, I look at the refinery. The only place that I could afford was this house here. And whoever was asking me, helping me to find a place, told me that this was the only place where I could qualify. And so, but she said, but 5 months after I moved here, my child started with asthma. And so, if you go to that neighborhood, in fact, you could, if you want to go drive there, it's off of Anaheim and Figueroa Place. In fact, just enter as if you're going to take the 110 freeway south to San Pedro. but don't enter the freeway. Just stay on the right, and that's where you see the neighborhood. And you see, there's only like 5 streets, and they are all adjacent, right on the other side of the refinery. And you know, these people, some of the homes are quite nice now. People were able to build on the homes, you know, to add on, and to become homeowners, to have the dream of become a homeowner come true. You will not believe how many people tell me from Wilmington that they never knew that the refineries could harm them in their health. They know about pollution, but what I know is that I keep hoping that I will be the one or one of those that will avoid cancer from whatever reason. It's so popular. So I keep hoping that somehow, and I know you feel that way, you keep hoping that somehow it would not catch you. That's exactly how people feel. And you know what? When I started organizing and going through these communities in Wilmington and seeing this and knowing what I know about what comes out of these refineries and oil extraction, I said, wow, I don't think I would ever live in a place like this. But now I can no longer say that with this certainty, because housing is so expensive. And anyone who has a regular job that makes minimum wage, so far, the federal has not been increased. You just recently moved to 15. But even if you were to put all your money, the people that I know in Wilmington that clean homes, that some days make $75 a day, that's a good day for them, but only work 2 or 3 times a week. The ones that you pick up at Home Depot and you pay them $30, $70 to come and help you for one time. How can they afford to have this income, you know, to pay $1,500 a month, $1,200 to $1,500? That's what the cost is right now for one single apartment, is at least $1,200. Yeah. And anyone, for any reason, because of the pandemic, you lose your job, you get sick, you know, you end up on the street, homeless. And so I can no longer say now that I wouldn't live there if I needed a roof over my head. So I would probably live there too. Anyway, it's my, you know, that's how we get, it's critical. So
Jane, Alicia, I think we have another question or comment from Jane. Jane, you want to share something?
Yeah, so can you hear me? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that Sherry has a really good question of how we can work with you, but I was going to also, like Steve, put in a plug for CBE. Communities for a Better Environment has so much integrity, and $1 invested in them goes such a long way compared to investing in these big national organizations that are not coming from the frontline communities and are often advocating for things like cap and trade and solutions that are out there far away somewhere. And they sort of just discard the sacrifice zones that, you know, our neighborhoods that are bearing all these terrible health consequences. And and Alicia is just an incredibly dynamic organizer. So yes, how can we at the South Coast Interfaith Council be your partner? And how can we pass SB 342? So Sherry Leary is an organizer with 350, and you know, we're ready to help. So tell us how we can help you.
Well, you know, that bill just became a 2-year bill, because unfortunately, all these Democrats in the Capitol, in Sacramento, are in the pockets of the Building Trades Union. And the Building Trades Union is the one that is the big bully in the room. I never thought that I would say that about unions, but this, you know, they have made a deal with the refineries. Let us organize, give us the contracts to build the domes, the tankers, everything, and we won't get on the way, you know, we won't get on the way of you fighting the environmentalists. That's the deal that they have made. We will not see, hear nothing. And whenever we try to pass anything that is insignificant, the building trades would come and threaten the or representatives. And so, you know, to begin with, the councilman that we have right now, Councilman Joe Buscaino, who now is running for Garcetti's position as mayor of Los Angeles, that's going to be horrible. We got to, you know, if you don't vote for the city of LA, in the city of LA, and you know people who do, we really got to get this guy. This guy would be horrible, has not helped us one bit in anything that we have tried to pass. And so, of course, we can't get this, you know, this campaign by the Republicans to get rid of our governor right now either, which we're not very happy with him. But, you know, if they take him out and put another Republican, that's going to be horrible. You know, and so anyway, I put there my email, Alicia at cvecal.org, that's cvecal4california.org. My first name, Alicia, and that's, you know, write to me, and I will put you in our mailing list. And so, and I will mobilize you whenever we need you. But there is a lot of ways that we need you. In fact, you know, we are, anyway, yeah, I will stop right there. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. They take
Right.
you know, they take money from the refineries. You know, the refiner Wilmington. It's unbelievable. You know, these oil companies try to put a gag on everybody. How do they do it? They give donations to every community organization in Wilmington. They give money to the churches. They give money to the schools to take kids on field trips. They give money. They would like to give us money, and that way, you know, they put a gag on everybody from coming out. However, we have a lot of support because people are sick. They are dying from cancer. They have tumors. Their kids have asthma, and they are not happy when the principal of their school is taking money from the refinery. So the parent, we get the parents, if the principal won't let me pass flyers, I just go outside when the parents are waiting for the kids, and that's where I give them flyers. And I did the same thing with the Catholic Church. The priest told me that I couldn't pass flyers because it was not religious, what I had, asking people to come to a public hearing to stop the merger of DeSoto. So I told him, okay, well, I'm going to be here with the flyers on the street, on the sidewalk. Can I do that? No, you're going to be interfering with our business. Well, I got there anyway with a couple of people from the church, and he chased me around. And I told him, I'm going to call Univision and I'm going to tell them that I'm not being allowed, and I'm going to send a letter to Pope Francis. So anyway, he left me alone. But the things that we have to go through, you know, to fight a company down is difficult. It's very difficult.
Monique, did you have something to say? Monique, can you hear me? I think he might be frozen.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No, I just, yeah.
Uh-oh. Well,
one thing we have to keep time,
Monique, if he's having trouble streaming, maybe you could stop your video. Monique, we're having trouble hearing you. So if you stop your video, we might be able to hear you better.
Oh, okay. Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Go ahead, Monique.
Is it better? Okay.
It is.
So
it
yeah,
is. Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
So Monique, we're
Great.
having trouble hearing you still. Do you
Yeah.
think maybe is it something you can write in the chat so that we make sure that we hear you or your sentiments?
I did write it.
Okay. Well,
Well,
while Monique, Mhm.
I wanted to add that
Chat a small comment.
I wanted to add that you know, with the oil drilling campaign, we started trying to to get the city to pass a 2,500 foot setback between new oil drilling and the homes. As I showed you, the oil drilling derricks are right there, right next to on your backyard, or even just, you know, they're not on your property, but they just right, it's like if they were on top of your roof. So we were amazed when there was a, Nuri Martinez, who was the president of the Environmental Justice Committee and Energy. The last session when she was going to, on her last hearing as her last day as president of that committee, she proposed to ban these oil wells, and we were like, "Whoa!" It was unexpected, but we have really come such. We are very close now. There is the city attorney is writing the language for the amortization. You know, how figuring out how can each company, you know, shut down within a certain time. It's going to take a while. It would be from 7 to 10 years or even 15 years. But if we're able to shut them down, and then we went to the next committee, the budget committee, and they put enough money right now, what we needed for the study and to hire somebody. So we're on our way to shut down this oil extraction in all of Los Angeles, and we're pushing the county to do the same thing. So that's ongoing with the county of LA. Everyone here, it belongs to the county if you don't belong to the city. So that's one campaign where you can push as well. You know, so now we have progressive women as supervisor at the county level. And so now they are not even thinking about putting a distance, but also how can they replicate what the city wants to do. And so that's amazing. And we are trying to do it statewide, so that we need a Newsom to issue a declaration to declare oil drilling, urban oil drilling, are not compatible. You know, and so we need him to do this, and that's another thing where you can help. So the adding two new members to the AQMD, you know, that became a 2-year bill, unfortunately, and so we can let you know when that comes, and you know, you can help us out. But remember that you can always donate, and I always tell people, you know, what Steve said. If we were not around to, you know, fight these companies, there are other organizations, but we focus on fossil fuel. And I tell you, with the when we sued the city for violating the civil rights of Wilmington, but not applying conditions when they are, you know, issuing permits, you know, we won. The city realized that they were doing wrong, but that was not enough. Then the oil companies came and said, "Hey, I was supposed to be part of that negotiation because it's going to affect me." So they sued the city and sued us. We prevailed, but that wasn't enough. Then they went to the next level and appeal. And I tell you, if we didn't have money to pay a lawyer, you know, to have on staff, we couldn't fight them. And that's exactly what they what their game is. They know that they you know, if you can, you know, there is somebody who lived, a neighbor who lived very close to Warren, to the oil drilling company, and she found a huge, like 4 feet hollow under her bathroom when she remodeled. Imagine standing on the slab of concrete where you take a shower and you're going down, if the slab just goes down. That's what happened, because the oil drilling happens below, you know, horizontal drilling, they call it. But, you know, she told the company says, I'm sorry, it's not us. Well, anyway, eventually they said, okay, we're going to investigate. It took them about a year to come and tell her it's not us. She had kept it open in case, you know, she needed to show. What can she do? She had no, you know, she didn't have any money to continue to fight them. So she had to invest, you know, the money in fixing that hole that had on in the bathroom. And that's because the oil drilling goes, as I said, and people, you know, your house start to shake. You have a water bottle on your table and it start to shake. You think that some ghost going on there, you know, and then you realize that your driveway is cracked, your windows are cracked, your walls are cracked. That's what happens with cold subsiding. People don't have the money to fight these companies. And the CEO of the facility was the chair of the Wilmington Neighborhood Council for years. This is how they manage to stay, you know, strategically where they are going to approve all these wishes of the companies. And so that's hard to fight, but we do it, and we've been doing it for years.
Alicia, I know Grace has a question, and Grace, if I may, I wanted to know, I guess, something kind of more on a personal level. Clearly, you're someone that's very passionate about this, and it runs through your blood. And I just wondered, what brought you into this work? Was it something that you were impacted by personally? Was it? I would just love to know that, if you would be comfortable sharing that with us.
Yeah, I was gonna put something, you know. I am from El Salvador and left in 1980 because there was a civil war where the U.S. was supporting the government that was killing everyone. It was a civil war. And so I fled El Salvador and I started working in refugee issues. But then I saw this you know, I did that for several years until the war stopped in El Salvador and there was negotiation. And then I saw this job and I didn't know exactly what it was about, but I got hired because there had been an explosion at Exxon in Wilmington, at Texaco, which is now Endeavor. Imagine that. There had been an explosion and the people living closest in East Wilmington had all these losses. And so we were trying, the organization that hired me had a campaign against Texaco to make an accountability campaign against Texaco locally. And I had read about the Rainforest Network Action fighting Texaco in Ecuador, where they had polluted all the rainforests of the native and polluted the rivers, the land, and everything. And they, then I realized, wow, that's the same Texaco that's here in Wilmington. And then I realized, wow, these companies, you know, seem to operate where people are poor and low income and have no voice. And that's how I became involved in this campaign and I became an environmentalist all of a sudden. And since then I started to learn, because I learned what's happening internationally. And I'm telling you, when you find out how these companies are taking over the land and you know, and cutting all the trees and polluting all these areas where people, you know, it's like you can't help it but feel solidarity and you want to get involved. And that's pretty much the simple answer. I have become passionate about the environment, and I know that this is a calling for me. It's like a spiritual And this is really my religion. This is my religion, because I feel that saving the earth is a calling.
Sure.
You know, this is where we live.
Right. Well, it ties, and it's, you know, we call this the Dream Series because we're looking at principles of that Dr. King embodied, or principles that he talked about. And I think exactly what you say in terms of just your responsibility to the people that are being, that a sense of injustice is being done towards them through the means of, you know, profit, really. And so it ties in. I mean, you're an example of what he spoke about so often in terms of people doing our part. Grace, I know you had your hand up for a bit. Would you like to share something?
Sure. I'm Grace Lawrenson, and I've been active in the Citizens Climate Lobby. I also go to the South Coast thing with Jane. Anyway, one of the things I was really pleased with Alicia's presentation of all the things we can do locally, and that's so important. But, and also she mentioned that the EPA thing that is happening nationally. Another thing that's happening nationally right now is the budget reconciliation thing that the Senate is putting on. And there's a little bit of environmental justice in that, but not much. And one of the things that all of this climate scientists and economists, everybody says we've got to have carbon pricing. And Citizens Climate Lobby has been working for that for a long time. We also believe in giving the dividends back to people. But meanwhile, carbon pricing needs to be in that bill that the Senate is working on. And we in Citizens Climate Lobby think that we should make sure that people know. So many people think that carbon pricing is a bad word. And if you don't think it's a bad word, be sure to let your senators know. And I did put a link in the chat if you need a link to contact your senators, but you probably all know how to do that anyway. Thank you.
Well, we've been fighting cap and trade. If you know what that is, what happens now is that it's so fraudulent. You know, the companies have all these ways to make up for the pollution credits. Mm-hmm. It's like if I don't pass the smoke test, but you do, and because you can sell me, you know, your credit that you pass your car, and I don't have to pass the smoke anymore because I can use your registration or whatever credit you got because your car was newer. And so this is exactly what cap and trade. These companies are allowed to invest, let's say in Brazil or Indonesia or Honduras, to plant trees. And that way they make up whatever they need to do when the regulators come and say, here, I did this, so I get the credit. So what happens is they never reduce at the source in Wilmington where they're polluting or anywhere else. They never pollute. And so what happened with the tree planting is that we cannot confirm whether those trees get to live for years or they get cut 5 years, 7 years after, and that landowner gets to release the land, you know, and so there is no way to find out how are these programs really helping the environment or not. So anyway, and then here locally, they had something called Reclaim, which gave the refineries pretty much, it was a cap and trade program. So after like 20 years, it hasn't reduced anything. And because we've been pushing, now they are ending the South Coast related to nitrogen oxide emissions. The whole area is in non-attainment. You know, they haven't been able to reduce the nitrogen oxide, and so they're finally eliminated that reclaim program and putting in place the command and control. What does that mean? Okay, we're gonna come, and in 3 months or in next year, you're supposed to have reduced these emissions to this level, or else you're not gonna be allowed to, you know, use that equipment or that unit, or you're gonna have to pay per day $3,000 or whatever until you fix the problem. And so, but instead they penalize them $1,000. That's like telling them like this, imagine, that's no help either. That's why the fines are important. And that's why we need command and control instead of these programs that are pretty much a play to pollute, pay to pollute.
There's so, again, I just want to be cognizant of the time. I know we have about 6 minutes left, but there's so much information that you've shared with us, Alicia, and thank you so much for that. And I just want to reiterate that if you guys look into our chat, there are websites that, you know, if you're wondering how am I going to remember this or where can I obtain information, that both, I believe it was Alicia and he was driving, what was his name, that also shared, let me see his name. What was his, remind me, Alicia, what he was,
Steve?
Steve, yes, exactly, that Steve had shared. So I invite you to please, you know, take a look at those websites as well. And I wanted to just ask, and also just put in terms of the SCIC, I think Jane had mentioned this, but definitely I think, you know, this whole notion of being a steward for this earth and taking care of it is something that's innate in all, you know, it's integral in all of these faith traditions. So know that you do have a partner with us. And if there's any way that we can be of assistance to you, particularly in terms of just advocacy and education, I think, you know, these are conversations that must happen in also our churches and synagogues and mosques and temples. And so if there's any way that we can be of benefit to you in regards to that, please know that we would be honored to be a partner in doing that. Okay, so just
we need endorsement and all that. And you know, every Friday I have members meeting, and you know how I get them to change and to realize what's going on is I use videos, just like I showed you at the beginning. So that's one thing that you guys can do. There's plenty of them. Somebody has to take the time to go online and show, you know, because a lot of, you don't know that in the Appalachian Mountain, there is constant burning that is going on from the coal mining of open mountain, whatever they call it, they have blown them up. It's going on all the time. People don't know that the water is being polluted by fracking in Pennsylvania and all these other areas, you know, where the water is polluted. These people are getting really sick. And this is how I become really impassioned when I find out. So somebody needs to go online and check some of the environmental videos and choose one and present it to you guys. Yeah. And have educational, you know, they don't have to be more than 15 minutes. Right. And this is a great tool that I have found to educate my members.
Well, we would love it, Alicia. I think Cheryl or Jane wrote in the chat in terms of the meeting, what time the meetings are at and where it is. And also if you could send us links to the videos you showed to Sarah or myself, that would be great. Speaking of Sarah, I know she joined us a little bit late today, but I just want to introduce everyone to Sarah as well. She was integral in putting together this series, as well as communicating with Alicia before in the process of organizing this program. So I think she joined us now. Sarah, if there's anything that you'd like to add, then please feel free to do so.
Hi, Alicia and everyone else. Alicia, thank you so much for sharing your immense amount of experience and passion with us today. I really apologize for being late. I got caught up and I wanted to not only, two things, I have so many thoughts coming to my brain at the same time. One, what you said about the conflict of interest in Wilmington is really standing out in my mind as a foundational issue. You know, since we are a faith space, this is a good place to share something like this. Elected leaders are supposed to be facilitators, right? They're supposed to facilitate democracy. They're supposed to be equitable and transparent, accountable facilitators of dialogue between citizens so citizens can figure out what they want. But the conflicts of interest make it impossible. So for example, in the Quran, which is the Muslims' scripture, it's mostly a lot of talking about purifying your heart. There's very little legal talk, but the one legal tenet that's mentioned there is that when two people, in the example that's given in the Quran, when two people need to come into an agreement, any kind of an agreement, the Quran calls for a scribe. And a scribe is a person that's a third party that has no vested interest, that can be trusted to equally represent what is being said by those two people that are engaged in the discussion, right? And so the scribe is supposed to be an honest and transparent partner to both parties, and both parties get to approve or disapprove whatever is written down by the scribe. And the problem I'm seeing, like the Wilmington example you shared, was just, it's so obviously absurd. But that's what we've lost. We've lost that practice of having transparent facilitators. Instead, we are into really egotistical leadership. That brings me to the thing I wanted to share. I went canvassing today with the Leadership Lab of the LGBTQ Center, which is a nonpartisan nonprofit. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit. We cannot promote or disparage any particular politician nor political party. But what we can say is there's a really important recall election coming up in the state of California. The ballots are going to get mailed at the end of August. The election day is September 14th. It's vote by mail. So by September 14th, you can either mail the ballot or drop it in a drop box. The recall is to, so what I can say is nonpartisan, is that there are Trump-like individuals who have called for the replacement of Governor Gavin Newsom. And if you agree with them, you would vote yes on the recall. If you would not like Trump-like leadership, you would vote no. I'm trying to be very careful with my words here. But mainly what I can say is it's really important. The more of us that vote and turn those ballots in, the better the chances of us getting a result that's reflective of our democracy. So I wanted to thank Alicia again, apologize for being late, and remind every single person here to look out in your mailbox for that recall ballot. If you are out of town, make sure your ballot gets mailed in or dropped in a box by September 14th. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. And again, I'm so sorry, Amelia. I know you got scared today that something had happened to me, so I apologize.
No worries. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you, Alicia, again, for your time and your passion and your expertise. And we'll be sure to, we'll have this conversation on our YouTube channel. So it will be up within this next week. So, and we'll definitely share it with the greater community as well. I also wanted to just remind everyone, as you know, this series happens the fourth Saturday of every month. And our next one is actually on it looks like Sunday, August 22nd, and we are confirming the speaker at this time, but it will be focused on the issue of criminal justice. And then thereafter in September will be kind of the conclusion of our Dream series, where we'll be focusing on economic justice. So those are the two that are still coming up. And if you recalled, we spent time on healthcare justice as well as education justice as well. So we welcome you to be a part of that. We'll definitely share more information about that as the time gets closer. So I wanted to end, again, like I said, when I was looking into this, I ended up reading so many things about Dr. King and how his principles of justice are ones that are most certainly inculcated within the realm of environmental justice as well. And I wanted to end with this kind of a prayer that he shared of his, which I think really reflects what we as the SCIC stands for in terms of the Interfaith Council, as people of different faiths, as well as what we believe in terms of our responsibility to one another, right? And so before we conclude, if I may, this was a prayer that Dr. King had stated himself. And it says, "Oh God, we thank you for the fact that you have inspired men and women in all nations and in all cultures. We call you different names. Some call you Allah, some call you Elohim, some call you Jehovah, some call you Brahma, some call you the unmoved mover. But we know that these are all names for one and the same God. Grant that we will follow you and become so committed to your way and your kingdom that we will be able to establish in our lives and in this world a brother and sisterhood, that we will be able to establish here a kingdom of understanding where men and women will live together as brothers and sisters and respect the dignity and worth of every human being. And I think that's certainly something that rings true when we talk about environmental justice and the communities that more often than not face the injustice as a result of what's happening in our environment. So I thank you again, Alicia, so much for being here. I thank all of you for being here as well. We apologize for the delay in the beginning, but we're so grateful to you to be here. All of our programs are on our website, www.scinterfaith.org. We invite you to please take a look at that and participate in all our upcoming programs. And similar to, we too are a nonprofit, and if you are able to, we would love to have your contributions and share your kindness as well. Unless there's anything else, Alicia, is there any concluding thought that you'd like to share before we say good evening to everyone for being with us today?
I will send the videos to Sarah, or
Okay.
I will figure out to whoever has written to me. I will send the videos and the song.
Perfect.
And I will send you the English translation, which I found, but then I couldn't upload it fast enough. It
No
was
worries.
last minute. And
All
if
right.
you practice that song, it's very repeated, and it just repeats.
Yeah.
But it's a good practice for Spanish.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. Thank you for all of you being here. Cheryl Benz, you're behind the scene. Thank you for office SCSC office administrator for keeping us all together and intact. And we will see you next month on August. What date did I say? 24th, I believe, when we'll focus on the issue of criminal justice as part of our Dr. King's Dream series. So have a
Glad
great
to be here. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so
for
much,
inviting
Alicia.
me.
Yeah, thank you. And we will see you guys soon later. So have a good evening and take care, everyone. Thank you again.